The dungeon has been raided, the monsters have been slain, and the treasure is all yours. That can only mean one thing. It's time for the after party at the Red Dragon Inn, the long-running, rambunctious card game from Slugfest Games that dares to ask the question, how will your adventuring party celebrate after a quest well done? Choose a character, then drink, gamble, and roughhouse the night away as you attempt to be the last one standing in the rowdiest bar this side of the adventure is Night Club. The last one awake and still with coins in their pocket wins, so be sure to keep an eye on your money, your fortitude, and those delicious flagons of ale. And don't forget to tip your servers, you filthy animals. Head on over to slugfestgames.com/RDI to learn more and snag your seat at the Red Dragon Inn today. Okay, hey there, Internet. Welcome to this little off episode where we answer your questions. We asked our Discord members to send us questions that they would like us to answer while we are all here live and in person, including Omar.
It's that guy.
It's
Hey, Omar.
me.
There he is.
I'm real. I'm here.
I'm real.
It's so bizarre.
Yes, we're using an entire dice camera on him, and he'd better bloody well appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm actually so small that I fit in the Dice Envy dice tray.
Thanks, Dice Envy. I don't know if you're sponsoring this behind the scene episodes, but thanks for sponsoring the other episodes.
Make
Dice
sure you
Envy.
like green screen the bottom of this.
Branding.
Right. Okay, so the first question is from Pixel Grip for the cast members. Was this your first time playing Dungeons & Dragons? If not, how long have you been playing?
It was kind of my first. I played a little bit with my brother and some friends when I was young, but I was just very young, so I was just going, hey, I'm being included. And so I wasn't really following what was going on at any moment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really engaging in any deep role play or like mechanics shifting. So this is all, like playing on this level is new to me, I'd say.
All right.
Yeah, this is absolutely my first time playing D&D. I did a little role playing, but it was through a Facebook group with some online friends where we were literally like writing a story about magic kids like supernatural kids at like a magic
Is it
school.
called Harry Potter?
Oh no.
It might as well have been because it was all about them having sex with each other. And so I kind of noped out of that after I realized all they really wanted to do was get their characters to hook up. So this is my first time.
Was a lot of deep stuff going on in this circle of friends by the sounds of it.
Yeah. That put a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but this has kind of endeared me to the whole tabletop thing because it felt like it wasn't for me because I'm a very tactile person. I like to watch and look and touch things.
Mhm.
And this being very imaginative, I was like, I'll zone out of it. But this has been a delight, honestly.
And I know that they're not sponsoring this, but the way we use the Foundry,
Yes, that helps
to
a lot.
visualize the maps and our characters, and you can move stuff around. It really does help
It
bring
helps,
in that
yeah.
immersion. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had made a character in a session a couple of years back, and we'd played the first round, and then we literally never came back. Because things happen. So yeah, this is practically like my first time playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's been a delight. It's been so much fun, and I definitely want to go and play some myself. I'd love to do some one-shots or even DM a little for some friends. I think that could be fun.
Yeah.
Could be fun.
Heck no, this isn't my first time.
Yeah, you got a history.
Doing this for I was like 18 years old, and a friend of I was visiting a friend in college, and he was like, "Oh, I started playing this fun game." And I was like, "Oh, like a video game?" Because we were nerds. And he's like, "No, it's like you have to use your imagination." And it was a game of Deadlands, which is a Weird West tabletop RPG. And he's like, "You should come hang out and do the thing." And I got to play an NPC for that session, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I've been playing ever since. I've been designing them, making them, playing them, freaking love them. I didn't play. It was like another 2 years before I actually played Dungeons & Dragons. I played a bunch of other games before that.
Yeah, and the first time I had a very good friend in high school who was a big Dungeons & Dragons player, and he was convinced that I would love it. So like when I was 18 or 19, he was like, "Hey, come and join me for a session. This is your jam. It's just people like being characters and then rolling dice to see what happens." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds great." But the group he was with was very unwelcoming. They were huge dickheads. And so like I came and this must have been timeline wise, this must have been 3.5, maybe even second edition or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. This was like, so this was an older edition, like 2000. 2001, 2002 ish. For timeline wise, if you can do the math for what edition that is. So I get there and they were like, they had a grid for their dungeon crawl, and I kept asking questions, and they were very annoyed with me for asking questions. It's like, well, why are you doing this? I don't know anything about the game. This was like at the first part of the internet, so it's not like I could watch YouTube videos about it. And they were huge dickheads, and that turned me off of it for years.
Oh, makes sense.
For years. But then just a little bit like 2018, 2019. So just a few years ago, I started really picking it up, getting into it, and I found a good group of people to play with, including some fellow improvisers and my wife, which makes a huge difference when you're playing with people who...
Massive.
Yes. So we started picking up, and I had some good friends have me join them playing different games, playing like Monster of the Week, playing Masks, which is like you're a superhero game, a role-playing game, and that was like, oh, this is just making shit up. That's fun. So that's it. That's my story.
I don't have much. I've been part of a few attempts at having like a regular game night, and then it just went nowhere, where we did like 2 or 3 sessions and then we stopped, and it's very sad because I've always been really into it. So I've never really sunk my teeth into D&D, but I mean, I've been open to. But yeah, most
Sounds
of my...
like we got to get Omar on the show.
Yeah,
I
gotta
would
get
love
Omar
to. Side quests with just the video editors. We're just going to be frustrated, and we won't want to do anything because we're like, oh, hey, we got to animate
We won't
that.
do anything cool because we'll know how much it'll take to animate it. I
We'll
love
have
it.
the smoothest
I love it.
season.
The whole side quest is just you all in like a blank room.
Yeah.
We're in a white void for the whole time. Love it. Let's see here. Snake in the Garden. Oh, this is a loaded question. What's everyone's favorite NPC?
Sanus Quiver, obviously.
It
Gotta be in his quiver.
But I don't want to sound superficial on this. I think there's something very fascinating about Anus Quiver, and for me, it's the contrasts.
Yeah.
You've got sexy lady torso, monstrous Lovecraftian horror below,
Yes.
and talks like Terry Jones in Monty Python's Life of Brian. That's coming from 3 different directions. It's what makes her so boundlessly fascinating.
I think on your point, another thing that makes it really cool is like her very much like forward kindness,
Yeah.
but also wants to eat you.
Yeah.
Like that also conflicting, but works well together.
Yeah, just play right by her and,
Yeah.
have a good time.
I loved creating Anus because like that was my idea, is like the succubus-esque character, like the siren character, but is not necessarily good at bringing people in, like that was my joke, I'll suck your dick. Whereas like you could just see like a salty old sailor being like, she said she'd suck my dick. All right.
All right. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably Popper's glow stick.
You spent a lot of time with
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, like my
Fun.
To get on.
Sigmar did spend a lot of time with him. What I like the most about him is that very clearly he was not supposed to be as important as he ended up being.
Yeah.
Like he got dragged into the situation
Yeah.
and like kept having to adapt like internally, like not just Jack adapting as he tends to do, but the character himself kept having to like test himself because he was a digger. That was all he really knew about.
Yeah.
He knew about underground, but like, as we kept testing him and the situation kept changing, like he would adapt, he would join us, he would help, and like he really became kind of like an extra member of the party by the end of it, and like his connection with us kind of helped our connection with the rest of the dwarven people. So like he's like a legitimate friend to the group in that way. Kind of miss him.
And just the fact that Poppers became a literal glow stick
Yes.
for
Yeah.
the majority of the
Yes.
season.
He realized his true potential after he met us.
Yeah. No, and it's really tricky, like when you have a DM and like a DM party member, because like I don't want to give you too much information or make that character too powerful, because I know stuff that Poppers doesn't know, right? So that balance is really tricky. But yeah, just this poor little mind master in way over dead. Yeah, it's a good character.
There's so many NPCs that I just love though. Like obviously when Borbus came out, I like died. Because he was just so incredible and unexpected, and he delighted me. And in the same vein, Peebus Flutter, the bee.
Oh,
the
Plebis.
bees.
Yeah.
Plebis
Oh my
Flutter.
Yeah.
god, I forgot his
The
name.
sex
Bee?
bee. The sex
The
bee.
sex
Sex
bee.
bee.
Because again, it shocked me. It surprised me, and I thought, wow, this is just so unexpected and weird, and I love it.
I felt bad for him because
yeah.
we stormed in with like Mortimer's big con, and I
He
felt
was
like he was just kind of
mid-coitus.
swept up. In it.
Yeah, like I loved Plebis because I was like, I had to think of like, oh, it would be really funny if you interrupted them having sex. Wait, how do flowers have sex with bees? That character was not supposed to be at all important, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually, I know stuff about artifacts, of course, just to help you with like. Be a contrast to your con.
Obviously, Anus, we've already mentioned, is just phenomenal. We love Anus, but I fucking love Oobs Florentine. I love him so much because he's so happy
Guileless.
and cheerful. Yeah. And there's just something so fun about the hi. I feel no pain. Daddy! Like there's just this childlikeness to them that is just so whimsical and joyful. And yes, I'm a big Oob Florentine fan. Big fan.
So aside from Anus, who is
Oh, Albert!
oh shoot,
Well,
Albert is a shovel. That cannot count.
not an NPC
Albert
yet.
and Moped though. Albert and Moped together. I don't
Pretty
know. I
good.
love so
Well,
many of them. It's
we should
hard
say
to
that
pick.
at the time of filming, it was just after the end of episode 5.
Yeah.
where Albert's still a shovel, so
Albert is still a
presumably he'll be unshoveled, and remains to be seen what he'll be like after that.
We did get confirmation that it isn't just a shovel.
That's right.
There was a momentary panic.
And by the way, like there was a small part of me. So like Albert has, now Albert has been polymorphed into a shovel. There was a small part of me as you were panicking where I was like, oh my God, do I do this? Do I? I knew you were thinking that.
We would have
Do
been
I make him
devastated.
just a shovel? Because like that would fuck with you so much, right? But I was like, no, we have to. This has to be satisfying, right?
Yeah.
But there was a tiny part of me that was just ready to fuck with all of you.
Totally valid.
Good panic though.
Who-
No, good panic though.
It
Yeah,
was
I
a good
understand.
panic.
I was very
Yeah.
Who are your favorite NPCs?
Well,
Jay?
Jesse was about to say.
Oh yeah. Other than Anus, so I actually really like the Dwarven royalty, like EIO and all them, because they were both character wise. Because like Grindbin isn't all about like upper society, and that people were so blunt and straightforward.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I like these people. Yeah, okay, we'll do. And like that, like coming out of the pawn shop and being like, oh, there's some safety here, and like, oh, I can talk to them, and I just thought they were very funny and like really cool.
I loved how the running gag that Mortimer just couldn't get on with. Because if we're talking about our character's favorite NPCs, I think Mortimer's come to really like Egalia because she's such a devious, manipulating bastard who keeps hiding her true motives, and that just fills him with intrigue at every step.
I think like Mortimer's relationship with Egalia has helped solidify her as a character for me.
Yeah.
Whereas like I always had her as like, oh, she is a me first, how does this benefit me character, very motivated. But like then you're playing with her is like, oh, maybe she's a me character that's also kind of a spy, like she's got her fingers in a lot of pies. So I think like their relationship has helped solidify her. For me, it's always when I get to do funny voices, and so it's like Anus, of course. Anus, of course. That's what we're calling this side episode. Anus, of course. But like Hansel Fjuck, is just the most pathetic man in the world.
We didn't mean to bully him so much. He just made it easy to bully.
I know, but I love him. I love him so much. Hansel and Anus, and hugely flop as a character who is like, the epitome of not a threat whatsoever, but really wants to be, and just like, hey. I love
the
Hugely
Watchman
so
who
much.
is very bad at his
Shouldn't
job.
be.
Yes.
So next question was for you from the Hannibal La. Jack, with any scenarios you're disappointed the cast missed or passed up?
Oh, many.
Anything you can now reveal to us?
There.
Or are you saving them for later?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of situations that I will like save maps or ideas or deep lore. There was like in recent memory. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go back through the seasons now because there's just so many. As you know, I try to make a hidden room in every map. You never look for them. That's fine.
We're not, most of us aren't seasoned D&D players.
Didn't we find the hidden room in the dwarves' throne room? The one that had
we
the
were let
painting
into
with
it.
No,
The queen let you
she
guys
just
there.
opened it for
Yeah.
you.
But it was a hidden room, right?
Yes, it was a hidden room.
but
You didn't find it though.
I mean, I think that counts.
And
After
huge.
that was said, though, I started looking and then just never found any, and I was really upset.
Yeah. There was in side quest 2, you were at the site of Sweet Lipton's grave. And there were a ton of NPCs there.
Yeah, we didn't talk to anyone.
And there was some actually that's when I figured out a lot of the history of the world as I was figuring out like, oh, this. You asked no questions to anyone and left without talking to anyone. You have no idea the history behind that special site, which as it turns out was very special. So that I was disappointed in. But go ahead.
I was to say, to be fair, we were cursed to go somewhere, so we couldn't stick around. And also, when we got there,
Jermaine had already fucked that up.
yeah, it was only Susan and the knight.
That's
and that was
true.
it. We never saw anybody else.
No, and that's
Yeah,
true.
because Jermaine pushed them out. If we had been there, I feel like we would have asked more questions.
Probably.
But he'd kind of already closed those doors for us, quite literally.
Yeah, he was ready to bust some ghouls.
Yes, and I guess
Needed boosting.
that's always the thing is I have that part of the world figured out now. So if it ever comes up, I can now just freely pull that information out. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff that I wish they would go check out, and that's okay because I'll just save it for later.
Husky Highlander 23 asks, besides 5th edition, what other systems have you played and liked? You D&D playing people.
Yeah, that's just us then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's just you and me.
Do you want to start?
I fucking love Monster of the Week, the Powered by Apocalypse system. Monster of the Week is a RPG that basically is like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or X-Files, where it's just like normal ass people dealing with the supernatural, and I really like their dice rolling system.
It is cool.
Very simple and easy, and I really want to learn Blades in the Dark, but it's very complicated.
I haven't played Blades yet, but I want to. That's
Right.
on my short list of I want to play
Yeah.
this. Yeah, it's lots of systems. I made my own system, Lexicon, so I play that one the most. Big surprise. But other than
Nice.
the shill, Savage Worlds is a very great system. As a universal system, I love it. I played Western games, I played superhero games, I played all the sci-fi games. It's just a great universal system. The World of Darkness stuff, like Vampire the Masquerade, is actually a really solid system. And Mage, the Ascension, has the coolest magic system, just hands down. It's not like this where you have spell slots and you have things. It's like you have spheres of magic, and what you put into is what you can manipulate. It's got lots of little rules and nuance and how vulgar you are with it. You can upset the gods of magic by doing things. Those are really good. I really, really enjoyed those. I'd like Pathfinder 2e again as a player. It gives, if you want something crunchy, yeah, I do looser systems. All those are a bit looser or something. You might like Fate too. That's fairly loose.
I forgot to mention my absolute favorite tabletop RPG, which is Passions de la Passion, which is the Spanish soap opera role-playing game. That has one of the best mechanics I've ever played in a tabletop RPG, which might come up during the heist, which is the actually I did this mechanic because it's a Spanish soap opera. You can have flashbacks to where your character hid something underneath a pillow. I hid the poison underneath the pillow, and I'm going to pull it out now. And then you roll to see how well you hid it in the past, which. Some of the most fun I've ever had playing a role-playing game is with Passions de la Passion.
That's pretty great.
So there you go.
And the Dogmatic Director asks, Jack, if you were to chart these on a graph, what percentage would you say is prepared for your typical Adventurers Nigh session stroke campaign, and what percentage is completely improvised?
Probably a solid 50-50. Obviously you see all the maps. If you ever see... if you see a character in the ZP style, I have prepared for that. Sometimes you will see with the stove. That was the stock. In the episode, you will see the stock angry animated stove image. That's when you know it's improvised, when I'm pulling in the stock image, because I thought it would be funny if you fought that at that moment. So,
It was funny.
so yeah, about 50-50. I don't know what these people are going to do, and they constantly surprise me, so I can't plan too much.
Help PMB asks for Omar and the editing team, meaning just Omar at the moment.
And Jack.
Oh yeah, I forget.
He also makes the
I
show.
forget.
Has there been anything you struggled to express visually, and if so, how did you solve it?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this before, but Sigmar losing a hand was a big thing.
Oh yes.
When the only way to represent an entire arm is a hand.
Yeah.
Just a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy the style we have in the show. I think it makes it very unique and stand apart, but it does have its limitations, and so there's certain
Yes,
out of the
yes.
box thinking that you need to do.
I believe I was the first one that had to animate Dabarella dabbing.
Yes, yes.
And figuring out exactly where to place those balls in what way to represent the elbow in face when you don't have an elbow.
Yeah. I got big into designing Mortimer's look for this series. Like I did a whole concept art thing, and I really wanted him to have like rolled up sleeves to imply that he was like, used to getting his hands dirty more.
Yeah.
But of course, none of that came across, did it?
No. Well, and even simple stuff like, I always flavor Sigmar's fighting moves as being like very flip heavy and flourish heavy.
Mhm.
But in the animation, it's really hard to do like spins.
Sure.
Because that's usually how I say you failed at something. Is like, oh, you were too busy spinning or whatever. But then,
Yeah.
like in the animation, you just go upside down and back right side up, and it never looks quite right. It looks funny, but it never looks how I vision it in my head.
Yeah, I was very happy with one of those where you got a very successful hit. And so what I did was have you turn into basically like a Sonic the Hedgehog spinning.
Oh, I
ball
do
of knives.
remember that animation.
Yeah, I was very happy with that.
Yeah.
No, I remember that one.
Yeah.
So it's tough sometimes, but it's a funny, good style to work with.
Yeah, well, it's harder in Zero Punctuation because I'm very often illustrating very abstract things. I'm describing, like, how do you say, like, this game has puzzles that I got kind of stuck on. So then you have like a Rubik's Cube with your foot jammed in it.
Right.
Or whatever.
right.
So another one for Omar from Baron von Wankenstein. What
good
software do you use for the animation, art, and editing?
So the secret to Adventure is Nigh, this animated series that we produce, is that it's animated by a team that is not comprised of animators. None of us know how to do animation, and so we're just flying by the seat of our pants. And we do all the art and animation in Photoshop, which
That's
is
exactly how I do it.
it is not ideal for this kind of show.
Yeah.
If I could go back in time and optimize it to be better and learn other software, I would.
It's the only software we know. And so we just make a slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you click the little visibility button
Yeah.
and then click this one. Oh, that kind of looks like it should go together. And that's it.
And the file sizes are massive. It's ridiculous. It could take like 10, 15 minutes just for me to open up one file sometimes.
Yes. Like for my segment of animations, which is what normally 2 minutes worth of
Yeah,
animations, it's 120 individual slides, and then I have to break them up into chunks of like 30 to 40 per Photoshop file, or else the file will be too big and my computer will blow up. So yes,
Yeah,
it's
ridiculous.
very ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mishoki. What was this is for me, what was the biggest, but you know what? We're going to roll this into a question for everyone here. Skulky says, what was the biggest single influence or pool of influences when it came to writing the world of Adventure is Nigh that the Adventure is Nigh is set in? But I will also say, what was your biggest influence for your characters?
I specifically did not want it to be set in like just plain ass like fantasy, like Eastern European whatnot.
Right.
I was
Well-
like, can there please be some sort of level of technology that
Well,
exists in
to
the world?
expand on that, if my memory is serving me correctly, when this was all being pitched in the very early stages, like Jack did come to us and say, do you want steampunk? Like we could have gone in a very different direction with this entire world and setting. And I believe this was even before we'd kind of started thinking about our characters. It really was like, what kind of world do you want? steampunk, fantasy, sci-fi, I think was even one of the things we said. And we all kind of liked the idea of it being a kind of mishmash.
Yeah,
like
kind
you
of
said.
a hybrid
Yeah.
thing of a bunch of like weird fantasy tropes. So like it would kind of free us to do more weird stuff with the characters and the story.
That is same for me. Like the not England European fantasy is like, it's just not interesting to me. Like I want new ideas. I want to mash up. I want like creative freedom and not just retelling like an Arthurian legend or something and be like, and all the people wear this armor. And it's like, oh, whatever. I've seen this before.
The real answer is the biggest influence is nothing because I'm making it up as I go along. It's fantasy adjacent, which is like, oh yeah, castles and shit. But then we like Florida is now a part of the world, and I just try to have it make as much sense as possible given whatever situation we're in. That's it. I'm no plan.
Rudfud asks, for the cast, how did you all come up with your characters? Any specific inspirations?
Well, I like playing around with con artists and like gentleman thief characters. I've done that in a lot of previous works. Like I did some adventure games where the main character was a gentleman thief. My Galaxy for Food books, the main character is a con artist. I just like characters who sort of fly in the face of what you'd expect of traditional heroics. And I guess a lot of that comes from the influence of reading Terry Pratchett's Discworld books, who was very big on challenging narrative tropes. I just like characters who just end up sort of saving the world in the heroic position with absolutely no intention on their part.
Okay, so yeah, in terms of character inspirations, visually, I was borrowing a lot from anime. Big surprise. One of my favorite design anime characters that I've ever seen is a character named Kaname Tosen from Bleach. He's a blind samurai, and he like originally they all wear like these black robes because they're death gods. They're like Grim Reapers. But when something happens, he turns on the enemy, and then he's in like this very cool ass white robe with like uncut sleeves, and like he's got like the long hair, and he's blind, so like he has like this visor over his eyes. He's just batshit cool, and he actually wears orange tassels around his outfit, which kind of gives him a distinguishing look. And so I literally just stole that for Sigmar's scarf, changed the color, and I think it came out well. We did go for a more like punk-ish look for season 2, and that was directly inspired by Michael Jackson in the Bad video.
Yes, I remember you sending that image too, and I just died. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, so it was like a combination of Kaname Tosen and Michael Jackson from Bad. And that's kind of Sigmar's current look. So I like it a lot, which is why I didn't change it much when we went into season 3. But yeah, those were my visual inspirations at least.
Most of mine were visual. In terms of personality or that's all been very seat of the pants and like more introspective than anything. But in terms of the visual inspiration, like 100%, I was playing a lot of Fortnite at the time, which gives a time frame for when we were doing this actually. And the Fortnite season that was out at the time featured a character called Meowscles, which is like this big swole cat. Like literally the emote they do is called Swole Cat. And I just was so fascinated with how weird that juxtaposition was between like cats are these agile thing, but no, here's this one that's just likes to power pose and show off its guns. And I just thought that was hilarious. And I was like, I want female swole cat. Like that was literally, I literally sent the picture to Omar and I was like, I want Meowscles. Like I want something along these lines. And it brings me immense joy to see Daella and her evolution throughout the seasons in terms of her look. I just think it's so cute and funny and silly. So yeah, it was Fortnite. I was inspired by Fortnite. I will say that with no shame whatsoever.
Very inspirational game.
Thank you. It really is.
So I wrote a book called Grindbin's Mobile Market of Ridiculous Magic Items, in which there's a character named Grindbin who sells incredibly low-powered, quirky items in a mobile shop that people can use to put in their RPGs. And so I was like deep in that when I got asked, like, do you want to do this? And I was like, I've been developing this character. Can I do this? The mushroom person, blah, blah. And Jack was like, absolutely. And I was like, yes. And so the character in mind was sort of a bit of a like a used car salesman meets a reverse needy neighbor. Like the person who wants you to borrow their lawnmower, like always checking in on you, like that sort of thing. And a personality trait that I really wanted to give them was like finding value in discarded things. And like, you know, seeing it in things that others don't see value in. And like, how do you, for the items being like, well, this is still useful, which has worked out perfectly with this party. And like, that's some of the things that you all have brought up about your characters that have made you like, oh, this made me feel, you know, I got those too big and they wouldn't let me play with them and stuff. And like, you're wanted and like, I like knives. Like all those things where like for Grindbin, looking at them like, no, this is a positive thing. And like, you know, kind of like endearing for that. And then for the look, I really wanted to go with like thrift store fancy, like not fully the nicest thing, but like definitely the top tier thrift store stuff, which has some really good things.
Lord Rafer asks, Jack, how often do you end up using the rule of cool or other DM magic to ignore higher dice rolls to keep the game going or make a moment of no return into a moment of high tension? I feel that one definite time was the KC versus Giant Tree.
KC versus Giant Tree. That was very funny. No, I actually didn't use any fuckery there. Like he just kept messing up.
The dice hate me.
which was very, very funny. You know, rule of cool, you will see me use a lot as far as it comes to when characters want to talk to someone mid-combat, where it's like, that's the more interesting stuff. So while that technically might not be within the 6 seconds you get in a round, it's like, fuck it. It's more fun this way. Other rule of cools that I will use is... you know, object interactions. Like if you want to do something that is not specifically explained within the rules, where it's like, but it makes sense. It's very rare that I will actually fudge dice rolls or like hide DCs, because I like the drama of like, you have to hit this number. Now you know I can't fudge it. So no, it's very common. Like sometimes I don't have a DC in mind and I ask you to roll for something. And if you get anywhere between 8 and 12, it's fine. I'll just go whichever way I feel like it. I don't really have a DC in mind. But if you roll a 1 or a 20, that'll make a big decision. So let's see here. Fury12001 says, question for Sigmar. Do you plan to, at any point, branch out into a different weapon? I feel Sigmar is actually better suited to using something like a greatsword.
You know, I've not really thought about Sigmar like branching out to use other weapons. I'm curious what about him makes you feel like he'd be better suited to a greatsword.
The anime influence.
The anime.
Is probably
okay. Sure.
I'm just imagining him spinning around with a greatsword and doing serious damage to the furniture.
The archer thing was something in my head kind of key to the experience I wanted to have in D&D. The fact that it is also 2 swords is just anime BS that that I pulled from just the stuff. So like, I don't know, I like that being his main weapon. I don't mind the idea of him, you know, starting to use just other stuff. I'm not sure how D&D works in the sense that he could be proficient in these other things or how well he'd be able to make use of them. So I don't know, I guess is the answer to the question. Like, I wouldn't say no to that, but I do like his current set of weapons. So like, if I could make that whole thing stronger and, you know, pick up stats that help that discipline, then I probably will over anything new.
Dan Ailing says, to the 4 players, if you were to make a second character, would you be inclined to go with the complete opposite of your current character?
Well, I suppose it did cross my mind that it might come up, especially after Mortimer nearly died in season 2 and only narrowly passed his death saving throws. I suppose the thought that occurred to me in that moment, as I considered the possibility, is that I'd like to play a new character who was in some way a sort of sequel to Mortimer. So I was thinking either maybe some kind of long lost brother or sister of Mortimer who had a much closer relationship to the truth and who could talk about him more. Talk about what his whole deal was. I had an idea to play as someone who was a detective who was looking for Mortimer.
Sure.
And had a sort of a stereotypical British Bobby sort of attitude. And what's all this then? I've come inquiring about a certain individual that may have passed these parts.
Funnily enough, well, with the way I treat Sigmar, have not actually thought of what could happen should he die.
He's coming close. He's coming
he's definitely the most likely to do it. I probably would try to go for a character that's pretty different just for the fun of it. And if I had to pick, I'd probably want to do a voice too. Like I might do like kind of just a British accent the whole time. Just because I think that'd be fun to do.
Is it as good as your Australian accent?
Even better. So yeah, I don't have like big details, but like yeah, I would try to pick something that's pretty opposite, I guess, to Sigmar's behavior, but something that I still think would be fun to roleplay as.
I wouldn't specifically set out to do something that is the opposite of Daella, but I've thought about this a lot. I have a number of characters in the back of my head that I'd love to pull out and work with at some point. Because for me though, it's like what makes an interesting character, and like I kind of mentioned with Daella, it's like, okay, a cat is normally like Tabaxia, agile and dexterous, and Daella is not necessarily those things. And so I like doing something that's unusual or weird or not what you expect. And so like I love the idea of Loxodons and like I can't remember what they're called, but like the lion characters too, I find really interesting. I like the idea of druids and like specific mages. Because that being said, Daella wasn't meant to go into magic, but my own personal feelings are not necessarily what my character needs. I'm like, no, I can't just like do this melee thing. She needs to go into magic. And so, yeah, I have a ton sitting in the back of my head, so I won't say too much in the event that, you know, the worst does happen and I have to use them or we get an opportunity to bring them forward. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of different ideas I have in the back of my head that I'd love to play with.
Definitely so many characters because you know they just stack up in your head. But I wouldn't, not opposite of Grindbin, I wouldn't want, because there's a lot of fun things about it. But exactly what would depend on what Jack would allow. Because like I think it would be really fun to play a magic weapon wielded by another player. Like a sentient magic weapon, I thought would be like really fun. So it's like, depending on how, I love Jack's face.
So who rolls for attack?
So like the weapon would be like a magic user and would like, but is being used as a weapon. Like,
So who would roll for attack?
You get two different attack.
Yeah, you get two.
turns,
So
I
you're,
guess.
so the
Who
person
rolls
using
for
them-
initiative? That would be such a clusterfuck.
Well, Albert's a shovel and he rolls for initiative.
Yeah,
You're right.
That's
So
right.
like
That's true, but
if Sigmar was using a sword, then Sigmar would roll initiative to attack with the sword, and then the sword's initiative would be, all right, well, it's my turn now. I cast fireball or whatever. But yeah, like so, there's a lot of things like depending on what character, like what, and also what dynamic it looks like the group maybe would gravitate towards, or like if Jack had a particular thing in mind, then like, oh, I'll make a lawyer character because we're going to court. Like that'll help, like something like that. So it really depends.
That's so fucking weird.
Question from Denmark to the editors. What's your favorite visual gag?
I have quite a few. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of quick cutaways in most of my editing, but especially in Adventures Nigh. And one of my favorite ones, I don't even remember the context, but in season 2, there's a conversation with Mortimer talking about his identity or something. Not his like actual, like his racial identity. And we just cut to a graphic that says Mortimer solves racism. It tickles me. Yeah. Jack, do you have one?
We never made a Bible as far as like a lot of times when you make an animated show, there is like a character Bible. Like this is how tall a character is. This is how tall they are in comparison to other characters and blah, 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 blah. We don't have one. I always make Sigmar slightly shorter than everyone else.
I like that.
Wait, you do?
Always.
I've never noticed that.
No, it's very subtle. Like even like especially when he's standing next to Egalia, I always make him just a little bit shorter than everyone else, just because I feel like
I have never noticed that.
That's funny.
it's just for me.
It must be really like, okay.
It's just for me. That's just for me. Where it's like that's his character. He's just a little bit looking, and I tilt his head up a little bit, so he's always like looking up at people.
We can make that law of the land, if
Right?
You want.
That
I'm
might
good
be
with that.
canonically the
Yeah, in
shortest
my
character?
head, that's I thought he was the shortest.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, all the characters are just the exact same height, so yeah, we could change
Oh
it
yeah,
up.
I always shrink Sigmar.
That's really funny.
I always shrink Sigmar and then beef up Daella a little bit. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we should make a character Bible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's one of my that is my favorite visual gag, and I'm trying to think of if I have another one. But no, that's a good one. So
That's funny.
Also from Denmark to Jesse, was Grindbin always going to be less than a year old? Or was that a spur of the moment joke?
100% planned. When I wrote One Page Lore Fantasy Folk, which are what Decaria are from, that their life cycle is like measured in minutes, and they live like 12 to 13 months. That was a set thing that I had.
But in space, though, says, what has been your favorite battle you've been involved in so far?
It's a tricky one because Mortimer, for the longest time, has been very uncomfortable in combat situations.
Well, and I suppose we could say favorite encounter. That would be, you know.
I was going to say that in season 3, I feel like Mortimer's been finding his feet in the combat arena a little bit, but largely thanks to me understanding how stealth attack works now.
Yes.
Like that whole bit at the end of the fight with the assassins around the campfire, where I stabbed one of them dead and just make eye contact with the other one and said, "Tell us who sent you or you die." That was probably, I felt large bollocked in that situation.
Yes, that was a beautiful fight.
For me, it's definitely the Battle of Piss Off Bridge.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the few combat encounters that kind of went exactly, quote unquote, how I envisioned it. There was a little sketchiness at the end there. What ended up happening after Sigmar was falling off the bridge ended up being much better than anything I could have hoped. Because the plan was to do something cool. It ended up being harrowing, but still cool. So like that is my favorite.
Yeah, I love the Battle of Piss Off Bridge as well. There was just something so ridiculous and fun about it. I also liked, even though you both nearly died, I liked the way kind of the worms went down because it was so unexpected that these worms with butts. And
Visual gag.
visual gag. These worms with butts. Like, there was no way that we were thinking that was going to be the thing that would nearly kill us.
I guess not.
And it changed us, you know? And then, of course, hard to ignore the murder dome. Obviously, that was a lot of fun as well. We've had some really good combat encounters that have all been enjoyable. The stove, see, it's hard. It's too hard. They've all been good. But no, probably for me, Battle of Piss Off Bridge as well, just because of the whole way it went down.
Fun stuff all around, but I gotta say, it's the top of the list is this is going to come out after Side Quest Season 2, so our battle with Mole Cutpurse is choice. I loved it. The way it happened was you can't plan it, and it was beautiful.
You know why you can't? Because rolling 2 nat 20s was unbelievable. It was... It was incredible.
Like we were all working in our strengths. We were all helping each other, and like we all had really good ideas that all worked well together and ended up winning. And it was just beautiful.
For that battle specifically, like I want you all to win. Like that's the secret DM hope is like all of the characters win at the end of the day. I'm trying to make that as difficult as possible for interesting storytelling.
You did 3 damage.
The way that you kicked the shit out of an old naked man. Was like, as far as like, that was not a fair battle.
God no, not by any stretch of the imagination.
And it wouldn't have been fair had he not been naked, and that's why we had to burn everything.
Exactly. Well, and so like I had big plans. You foiled them all in such a delightful way. That was great.
Zon Lord's got a whole bunch of questions. Let's rattle through them pretty quick. Jack, since Jesse has an RPG help desk stream, do you ever tune in and listen for ideas, suggestions to use in Adventurers Night?
Unfortunately, I do not. And I also no longer listen to some wonderful tabletop role-playing podcasts that I used to enjoy because I don't want to accidentally use someone else's idea. You know, like I'm trying to be as clean as possible. So I don't get to listen to a lot of things that I usually would like to. Whenever there's downtime, I always take in stuff like that. But during prep and story writing time, I don't listen to any of that.
Jack doesn't watch my show. That's the answer.
Jack, again, is there a feud between the good sexes and the nagging wives?
I always like the idea of, you know, like Smith being named after blacksmiths or the like. So I love that, like the good sexes were named because they were very good at sex, and the nagging wives were named because their wives historically bitches. No feud. The good sexes are, you know, they're just chill. There's no feud with the good sexes in anyone.
Amy, do you see Daella as going full cleric from here onward, or are you planning a more even multi-classing?
It's a hard one to balance, and it kind of depends on how many levels we gain at the end of each season. Because there's not a whole lot that really bolsters with the fighter/war and the war chef martial archetype that Daella is. And so there's kind of some more interesting ideas that kind of come along with cleric in the later, like in the levels to come. So honestly, I haven't specifically thought about it. I do want her to always be this kind of balanced character. So no, I can't imagine her going for cleric, no, to answer the question.
And Amy, do you share Daella's love of cooking? And if so, what meals are you particularly proud of?
I'm not the most exceptional cook. I cook quite well. My mother is an amazing cook, and I love her food so much. So the few things that I've like kind of picked up from her are always like pasta-based dishes. Like one of my favorite things to make is like an eggplant-based, like tomato-y pasta, and I just like I love doing that. But I mostly love baking, and I think that's why Daella, I think, it tends to lean more towards baking than she does, like, say, cooking, and which is why you'll notice the only things she's made have been like pastries or like cakes or pasta. They're literally the only things she's made, and that's because that's kind of what I like as well, and it's just one little subtle thing I like to inject into her experience.
Casey, did you have any advance warning that Egalia would become such a major factor in the overall story of the world?
Not at all. Jack sprung that in the middle of that first campaign. It was a legit surprise. I wasn't even sure how to deal with that because I'm like, okay, so what part of this story am I making up now, and what part is Jack making up? But Jack even named the character because I didn't have a name for Sigmar spurned bride at that point. But he did ask me stuff after the fact to fill out some other little details, like the name of Sigmar's sister. He asked me that and some other little details about like the relationship and how, like if there was bad blood between Egalia and Sigmar and stuff like that.
Like you gave me like Egalia as part of your backstory.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just, you know, invited her into the world, and then we figured out how you felt about each other as we went on.
Yeah, like it kind of formed naturally after she was like there in the situations. And I think it's really cool that she's stuck around. I don't know if that's more me or Jack. That is the reason like why she's become kind of likable, or you know, for the cast or the people watching. But I think it's pretty cool, and I still love their dynamic. Like I think it's pretty funny.
Yes.
And for me, what led to designing Mortimer as an almost compulsive liar? Well, that's interesting because when I first started it, and we watched back like the pilot the other night, and it occurred to me that initially I was much more leaning into the just sort of standard gentleman thief model. Posh dude, dresses well, just tries to lie his way out of situations, looking out for number one. But when his like deception was so high, and I was min-maxing that more and more, and I was leading into that more and more, that he kept using deception. And then when he had us write like a bit more backstory for them, and I wrote you that whole short story that only you and I have seen, as far as I know. Make eye contact with Jesse.
Bit in your
Jesse
head.
has seen pieces of
I started to think that there really is a sort of pathological component to Mortimer's lying, and I think that's because he's kind of damaged by the truth. He has an awkward relationship with the truth because he was like many times in his upbringing that bad things happened when the truth came out. So that's kind of where he is. He sort of like has a sort of uses lies as a crutch, like emotionally.
I don't know if this is a question. It says, ooh.
How much have Yahtzee, Amy, and Jesse's backstories expanded in the time between the initial things and now? And they say Casey might have been the only one to submit a more thorough initial backstory. Well, that's not true, I don't think.
No.
Yeah, it's not true.
Well, no, like the initial, like Casey, you all gave me backstories. Casey gave me other people.
Right.
Initially, like for season 1, like everyone had a backstory, everyone had a life, but you like Sigmar was the only one whose life also had other people that had consequences on his life, as far as were specifically named until later on, of course.
I read the story that mentioned Pikeworth, who was introduced as a character.
That's right. And so
2.
it's like, that's why Egalia was there, is because that was the only thing I had to go off of. So it's like, oh, okay, this will make sense, and we can do this and this and this. And then everything else has been coming up.
Kettle Chris asks Jack, is there any lore you've been tempted to retcon so far?
I mean, of course, there's a ton of stuff that stops making sense as soon as you look at it too closely. But it all works. It's all funny. So no, we're not going to retcon as far as I know. I'm trying to.
I think the backstory is sort of foggy enough that you don't really need to retcon
Right?
so far.
You can explain away why the king and the queen have 2 different last names. And then we go, of course, that's how it works here in Gundari.
That's what Omar just asked during we took a little break.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if you got like 2 really, really posh families and they both names have equal weight, then that's not unheard of.
I guess that was just making up. So like Omar asked me if that list of silly names that Queen Beyonce was on was all just a joke, or if I had a plan for it.
Yeah. Well, I assumed, I was like 99% sure it was just a list of silly names.
Yes, and 100% it was just a list of silly names. It's a list of silly names because the prince and the queen had different names, and I didn't even think that far ahead. I was like, silly name, Queen Beyonce. And I thought to myself, this will never come up again.
Well, that almost leads into the next question from Boulder, Miami Dale fan, which is, how in the Hootenanny do you come up with the names for your NPCs?
It's juxtaposition. All comedy is juxtaposition. And so I tried to find a normal-ish sounding name or a normal sounding fantasy name, and then something that juxtaposes it. Here's the little notebook that I carry with me everywhere. And in this notebook, we'll give you a small little peek. Here's my list of silly names that I write down.
Someone's going to freeze frame that.
Right?
All your names now.
Here's my silly name. Here's my list of silly names. Hugely Flop is crossed out. Fiddle Diddle Frick is on this list. The Stingin' Nettle. Oh, I don't think you ran into. I gotta double check some of these because I don't think I've crossed them out. That's some good ones.
He's just laughing at his own name.
By the way, I do. I think I'm hilarious. So if I think of something silly, or even if I see a real person's name, like a lot of times there'll be real people that just have really funny sounding names. I'll give you one off of my list. Though I want to use it, which is Heatherford Number Putts. Heatherford Number Putts. I wrote that down. Why? Because I'm a silly person. So yeah, I just come up with silly names.
Well, speaking of silly names, Wolfman Complex asks Jack, was Jeremy Goodsex the member of a clan or tribe of Goodsex, or is it something of a professional title?
What we have discovered since Side Quest 1 is that the Good Sex is a clan. Musk helped me live, who played Musk Good Sex, helped me actually flesh out a lot of the Good Sex backstory. A backstory that is even deeper should we go there. I know a lot about the Good Sex clan, way more than I should. Obviously, again, that just started as a joke, but now the Good Sex clan is a part of the lore significantly deeper than anyone realizes.
I might have to change my new character answer and be like, Oh, now I want to know more about the Good Sex Clan. Maybe I can play one of them.
That's how you do it. Jam on Toast 89 says, Jesse, I noticed that when referring to Grindbin, you generally use they, them pronouns. I don't know if Grindbin's gender identity has ever been discussed, so I was just curious if that was deliberate.
So no one told me that they were doing questions, so I absolutely answered this in Discord.
Oh, okay.
But I'll say it again for here. Yes, that was planned. Grindbin is they, them, and that's how it's written in the book. Grindbin's mobile market of ridiculous magic items.
I'm sorry,
so
what book is that?
It's Grindbin's mobile market of ridiculous magic items that you can buy. And so, yeah, that was planned. And I mess it up sometimes. And like, so does everybody else.
We
and that's
often
fine.
do, right.
Yeah, and it's like,
Because we're talking to Jesse. And
Right, that's the thing. Is like you talk to a person, but you're like kind of referring to the character, but that's so it's like it's easy to get messed up. I mess it up too, and like it for me also with Grindbin as a character, very much a matter of like if somebody like in game gets it wrong, it's like well whatever. Like understanding of like gender identity and things is just a thing that's different in different places. So it's like oh well if that's a thing, all right whatever. Like it's not worth like oh I must correct this. It's like
JRL. Jack, where the heck did Bonesy come from? Who are they? Why on earth would Bread hire a skeleton in a food handling role? This has been bothering me for 2 whole seasons. And players, so a skeleton hands you some croissants right after you released a murderous zombie death horde, and you have 0 questions about this.
Can we go back? We did ask questions. I specifically asked, and I have distinct memories of this. We did ask. I said, "Is it one of ours?" And you confirmed that no, it wasn't one of ours. And we were like, "Oh, this
that
is
was in
fine."
the episode.
We did ask.
That
We
was
did
in
ask.
Characters of residents of a fantasy world.
Yeah.
We accept that ambulatory skeletons exist.
Yes.
It's not
Undead?
that weird, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, why is this keeping you up at night?
Right.
Undead's just a normal part of life.
Apparently for good reason, as we, as players,
That's
now
true.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's right. That's right. So originally, again, it was just a gag, just to have a little skeleton helper. I thought it was funny. Since then, as I start to put the world and the story together, actions have consequences. A member of nobility was killed. Oh well, wouldn't it be great if someone was on to you, right? Well, how would they be on to you? We need a witness. Who could be a witness? Why, Bonesy was the witness. Bonesy was the witness because Bonesy is actually King Cheserick the First, which you all just found out about a couple days ago.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Bombshell.
That's huge.
Absolute bombshell.
You don't know why Bonesy was there. To me, as
Yeah.
far as Bread is concerned, Bread is a very wholesome and lovely man who sees a skeleton who's not trying to kill him and offers him a job. So
That's why we like bread.
yeah, Bread is one of my favorites. So there you go. You just this season we all figured out where Bonesy came from.
So is there any familial relationship between Bonesy and Fudge Ruckersford?
Familial, no.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, obviously, there might be some sort of recognition because they're both nobility. But actually, you might not even know that it was Bonesy that told.
Bonesy wasn't in the room when
Bonesy was in the
attack took
building.
place. Yeah.
Bonesy
Yes.
could have been like,
Bonesy was
know.
in the building. Bonesy knew it was you that did it.
You wouldn't even need to see, honestly. Like, you could piece it together.
Also, I'm sure Brett talked to Bonesy
Yeah.
about it afterwards.
Yeah, because Brett helped us move the body.
Well, he overlooked us.
Yeah.
Brett is the one that suggested you move the bodies, and then that sort of thing. So I might have given you more information than you knew that it was Bonesy that tattled.
You may have.
Yeah, but
I was like 90% sure.
I figured as much. So yeah, Bonesy would know who Fudge Ruckersford is. I
I'm
suppose.
still not 100% convinced they tell it. Anyway, that's completely unrelated.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jelko, animators and editors. Has any twist ever made you look back on previous episodes and think, I should have edited that differently? We know Jack occasionally has to retroactively build on things to react to players' actions, but I imagine that extends to other parts of the production as well. Omar does a really good job at keeping continuity for us animators?
Yeah, as much as I can.
Like you've started giving us like reference frames. Like when you start animating, here is your reference frame
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
for how things should look. I know, like, I'm sure there has been flubs here and there as far as like, oh, I ended my animation with Sigmar having something in his hand, and the next time we see him, there's not something in his hand. But
Yeah.
That's
it
gonna
was more
happen.
of an issue. I mean, I was still figuring out the process in the first season. And so we're definitely parts where like one episode is animated one way, then the second episode is animated
Mhm.
differently. Like we just completely changed one of the centaurs.
did we?
Yeah. Actually, we completely changed both of them. But I just gave you 2 generic centaurs, and then you were like, no, they're specifically 80s action heroes. And I was like, okay, I guess in the next one, I'll just replace them with the 80s action heroes.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Looking back on all of season 1 and 2, what has been your favorite twist so far, whether by DMing or player actions? I loved your fudge Ruckersford fail.
That was good.
Yeah, that's how the dice can fall sometimes.
That's how they can
Sometimes it'd
fall.
be like that. I had so much planned for when that succeeded.
Yeah.
Because this is how I've said before, this is how I play Mortimer. I spend the week in between sessions thinking of what would be the very clever spirit of the moment thing for a very clever person to think of to do.
Yes.
And he was going to like convince him that we were working as agents of January Farvel. He was going to like get him to like send us after the Jade Homunculus on his behalf so Mortimer could start a bidding war between all the people who wanted it.
Oh
So
no,
it's
and
gonna
I
be-
loved that idea.
This
I
is
was
gonna be
ready for that to
beautiful.
happen.
Yeah.
But
Set
sometimes
the course for where we are now.
Exactly.
So, you know,
I gotta
all
say
works
that.
out.
Oh, sorry.
No, that was
Oh.
me done.
I think the Celia being Grindbin's mom is my
Oh,
personal favorite.
yeah.
That was
Oh, man.
such a good, like, a lot of build up with like fungus and little mushroom people and like everything, and then that just it worked out really, really well.
Mhm.
And like I know I talked to you and I was like, oh, if you have like things you want to put in the backstory, like I'm cool with it. Like it's not like this is my character and it has to go
Yeah.
this way. So
And I was like, okay, how about your king?
yeah, like not at all what I had in mind. And then being like, oh yeah, you basically gestated for like 100 years. Like, okay, cool. Like I really enjoyed how that unfolded.
Mine is almost something. It's hard because there's been so many good ones. Like, yeah, fuck. The Celia one was
Really good.
oh, so good.
Mhm.
The Bonesy reveal that we just spoke about, like that blew my mind. I have a feeling mine is going to be is whenever we find out more about Mortimer. And the reason being is I like got chills in episode 1 of season 3 where we cut away to Mortimer talking to Pikesworth and we started to see this little touch there and I'm like, I can't wait to find out what we don't know. And I am excited that it is something that will, you know, never be revealed in a video or something. Like it is something we will find out in real time. Or that is my hope anyway. And I'm excited to see what that is because I do have a feeling whatever it is going to blow my fucking mind. So yeah, mine's a in the future twist. I have a feeling.
Feel pressured now.
I really like the Celia reveal of
So good.
well, Grindbin's reveal really,
Mhm.
but I think the legit like coolest one was the twist on how we had to deal with Fuzzy Hug because like the whole time we're like kind of struggling with the fact this is a really big worm. How are we gonna fight it? How are we gonna talk to it? Blah blah blah. It had nothing to do with interacting with the worm. It turned out we had to interact with each other, and that was really cool.
Yes.
That was good. Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorites too. That was
Oh,
great.
can I actually add one?
Yeah.
When Sigmar lost his hand.
I loved the camera work on that bit where everyone was panicking and the camera
Yeah,
was
that was
panicking.
good.
Like,
That was really good.
Was that Omar?
Yeah, that was me.
Blurred a little. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
God, that
Shaky
was such a
cam.
good moment. You did so well on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question, because the last one we were doing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Salty, Councillor of Poles, asks a question to Omar and Jack. When did you get the feel for when to cut to animated sections or add visual jokes? I think the show has gotten quite consistent in terms of editing and style in the second season, but when and how did you know this or that cut stroke edit will best punctuate the joke?
I'm very curious. That's a good question. I also want to
That
know.
is a really good question.
Sometimes because the way the timeline works, the way the pipeline works, is I take all the raw footage and edit down to what I think is a good edit. So I'll edit out all the bullshit, all the whatnot and who's it's. And sometimes when I edit, I will specifically edit, like cut to the paper backdrop because I just need something to cover up an edit.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, sometimes it's trying to find it like what would sell well the best as animation versus showing your faces, and sometimes it's just because there are edit points.
Yeah.
And so often there will be a point where it's like I don't really know what to animate here. Is it just people talking like this person moves over here, and why is this even an animated segment? It's because there's a cut, there's an edit point underneath that we're trying to hide.
Because sometimes I'll have to really cut a section to shit because we'll just keep talking. And it's like, oh, the third word, the fifth word, and the eighth word are all I need. So click, click, click. And we just need to animate that because cutting our faces is impossible.
It's also a good excuse to retime things to make jokes sell better. So often we'll remove somebody else's audio track or get rid of a reaction or move a reaction later just to make the joke land better. So that's another thing we hide in the magic of editing. But in addition to that, it's a balance of trying to find what would work the best in I think, as I mentioned, what would work the best in animation versus showing you. Like the one I'm thinking of right now is Daella's speech in the cave.
I like the musical choice.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And so I did want to still retain like your performance. I didn't want to just cover it with Daella the whole time. And I thought that was very important to give you that space as well. But also, you got to show this, this cat bawling her eyes out in front of a crowd of people.
Well, I was also bawling my eyes out while I was giving that speech. I was very in the moment for that, and you did an amazing job of bringing that to life, and so thank you. It was a great moment.
Well, hey, thanks everybody for submitting questions. Hopefully we answered them in the best way possible. Thanks for everyone who has signed up for the Discord. So if you're not signed up to be a Discord member, come and join us on the Discord. We pop in there every once in a while to answer questions, or we make videos like this. And make sure to give us money on Patreon.
Yes, please.
Because we
love that money.
We love that money. That's how shows like this happen, is because you pay us money.
Sorry.
Sorry? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you. Bye.